Interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, a California cabin got burglarized. Turned out to be a bear and a cub.
Tony Kornheiser, Brian Urlacher, and Rick Russell, bear and a cub?
I like that combination. Huh? One is in the Hall of Fame, my buddy Brian Urlacher, and the other, Rick Russell. You know he won 20 games once, and he also won like 19 and 18 and 17. Tony, nobody wins 20 anymore. Rick Russell won 20 for us one year.
Yeah, but not anymore. That's the whole point. If he pitched now, he'd be happy with 14 like all the rest of them are. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Kyrie Irving signs up for years with the Mavs. Two young baseball stars forget what out it is, and Jay Billis joins us from the NBA draft. But we begin today with the Celtics trading away another piece of their championship puzzle, Kristaps Porzingis, to Atlanta in a three-way deal with the Nets and getting back George Niang and a second-round pick. Just the other day, the Celtics traded Drew Holiday. As a result of both trades, the Celtics will save $180 million in luxury taxes. Wilbon, what is the most interesting angle here? The Celtics trading Porzingis, the Hawks acquiring Porzingis, or the Nets now having 5 first-round picks tonight?
No, you said it already in the lead. It's the Celtics saving, in terms of tax and salary, $180 million by getting rid of Porzingis. And Porzingis is going to go to Atlanta, and my over-under for the number of games he plays next year is 38, because that's all he's going to play. And he's played in more than 57 games, I think, once in the last, 8 years. He's not going to play. He played enough for the Celtics to really help them win and was vital part to that championship. I give you some credit for that, because when a lot of us are saying, I don't know, you went full in with Porzingis and helping them win a championship. Good for you. That's over. So the Celtics decided to move on. We know they're restructured. They got to save some money. These are new owners. It's not with Grossbeck. These guys don't necessarily want to pay 2 players, $600 million. So there could be more dealing to come from the Celtics. We're not sure of that. But this answer to this question is Porzingis being dealt out and the saving of $180 million.
So I'm going to sort of agree, but I'm going to go at it a little bit differently. The most interesting thing to me is what the Celtics are doing, because, Mike, it seems to me they are giving up on next year. They know that Jason Tatum, with a torn, is it his ACL or Achilles? I think it's his
Achilles.
Achilles. Okay.
Achilles.
They know he's going to be out all of next year. They just traded 2 other starters, Holiday and Porzingis, and they picked up in return 2 guys, Simons and Niang, who are on expiring contracts. So they're probably not going to be in Boston when Tatum gets back. I want to know what Boston is going to look like when Tatum gets back. And the reason it's the most interesting thing to me is because they're just 1 year away from winning a championship.
Yeah.
That is a big deal to me. So I think that's a big deal. I would just mention, I'm over my head with the 5 first-round picks for the Nets, because all I know is Cooper Flagg, and I don't know anybody else. I guess that's a bonanza, Mike, when you consider, they could package a couple of them and make trades right now, tonight.
You could.
But I don't know how deep the draft is. Does the draft go to 27? Because they got 22, 26, and 27. Does it go that deep? I don't know.
Here's how deep recent drafts have been. Somebody got a guy named Jokic in the second round, and somebody got a guy named Brunson in the second round. So I don't know that this draft is that deep either. Real quickly, too,
the
Celtics were looking at a 2-year window. That's all they were looking at. They were going to have to do this anyway, but they lose the second year because of Tatum and the injury.
It's weird. And I love Porzingis, you're right, but he's an itinerant now. He floats from team to team. He doesn't stay anywhere. Doesn't produce. He's Joel Embiid. He's not healthy. Let's stay in the NBA. Go to the Dallas Mavericks. They have extended Kyrie Irving for 3 years after Irving declined his player option to make this deal. The other day, the Mavericks signed Daniel Gafford for 3 more years. Tonight, they are expected to draft Cooper Flagg with the number 1 pick. Wilbon, what do you see in Dallas's future?
I see them being a serious contender year after next, because I don't know how soon Kyrie can get back. I know there are all these optimistic, discussions about and predictions and forecasts about him coming back in January. I don't know that I'm buying that. And Kyrie knows his own body, and he knows he doesn't want to rush back at this stage of his career. But when Kyrie Irving gets back in there, and he is for Dallas what he was for Dallas for, a year and a half, getting to the finals, and of course then the next year it looked like he was being great again. And you got Flagg, and you got Gafford. Oh, you got a guy named Klay Thompson. And you got, P.J. Washington. Now you got, a Hall of Famer named Anthony Davis. They got a roster, Tony, and they got a coach. The big thing for me is whether Jason Kidd is going to be there. I still wonder if Jason Kidd is going to be the coach of the Knicks. But that's another whole story. But they got the assets, the human resources to be really, really good. And if all those guys are healthy in the lineup, and if Flagg is the third best player on that team, they can look at Oklahoma City and say, let's go drop the gloves now.
We probably could not disagree more on this one. What do I see in Dallas's future? I see them firing the GM, Nico Harrison, because of that insane trade, getting rid of Luka Doncic. What I don't see, and here's where we do agree, I don't see Jason Kidd coaching there. I agree with you. I think he's going to the Knicks. Yeah. One of his top assistants left the other day. Another top assistant that's being reported is publicly contemplating leaving. That seems to me, Mike, a precursor for Jason Kidd to leave. Kyrie Irving, so here's what Kyrie Irving did. He's out. We don't know when he's going to come back. That's not an Achilles, right? Or is his an ACL?
It is an Achilles, too.
I thought his was an ACL. All right, okay. Achilles. It doesn't matter. They're both.
Oh, ACL.
It's an ACL.
ACL for Kyrie.
It's an ACL.
For Kyrie, yes.
So he's going to come back. Nobody knows when. Not at the beginning of the season. It's a very serious injury. You don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. And he's 33 years old at this point. I think he took the long money in this contract because maybe he knows something that we don't know. You mentioned Anthony Davis. What does his history tell you? His history tells you that he's not healthy. And can Cooper Flagg be great right away? Maybe. But he's 18 years old. He'll be 19 in December. He's going to go up against men. Mike, I think Dallas has a lot of names, and that's all they got is names. I'm not sure that their future is anything but uncertain at the moment.
It is uncertain, Tony, but next year, not this year. That's why I said give Kyrie some time. I agree with that. He's not gonna come out and be Kyrie right away coming off a serious injury. Next year. And they got to be healthy, but you can say that about every team. You can say that about Jason Tatum's team and Halliburton's team. You can say that about everybody. I think they got one shot in them. And you did too, by the way, when they first made that deal. You said that Dallas was going to be okay short term.
This year, I said. Maybe not this year.
Let's move to two cases of absent-mindedness in baseball last night. In the first, O'Neal Cruz of the Pirates was pulled for failing to run hard to first. Cruz said he lost track of the outs and thought the fourth and second was the third out, inning over, okay. But Cruz had also casually blundered a fielding chance last week. In last night's second case, and this kills me, I was watching it live, Pete Crow Armstrong of my Cubs hauled in what he thought was a third out deep in center field at the fence in St. Louis, but it was only the second out, and he allowed what proved to be the winning run to score from second base on a sac fly, Tony. Which lapse was worse?
You know, it's Pete Crow Armstrong. There's no doubt about that because it led directly to a runner coming in from second base, okay? He makes a catch at the wall. He stops looking at the field because he obviously thinks it's the third out, and the guy comes in. It proves to be the winning run because St. Louis wins by 1. That's the run.
Yeah.
When it happened, it's 8-5 St. Louis in the fourth inning, but ultimately it's 8-7. So that's more costly. Now, what Cruz did looked worse because Cruz, he should have gone to first. He's fast. He could have gotten on. If he gets on, maybe he comes around to score. But even if he comes around to score, and that's speculative, at that point, it would be 7-4 Milwaukee. It ultimately ends up that Milwaukee wins 9-3. So we're just wondering what would happen with him. What we see with Pete Crow Armstrong, as you well know, is it has a direct bearing on the end of the game and the final score.
And maybe more than that. Look, Pete Crow Armstrong, who I have on a very short list of candidates for National League MVP, has been a wonder for the Cubs. I tune in every night to see Pete Crow Armstrong field, hit, run the bases, all of it. But he made this catch last night, and I'm wondering, whoa, Is it me? I think this is the second out. And you see the St. Louis Cardinal, I think it was Wynn, just tearing around third. And I'm like, oh my God, he forgot Tony.
Yeah.
This is the Cardinals. The Cardinals are chasing the Cubs. It's a one-run game. And suppose you get to the end of the season in that division, which is tight with the Cubs,
That's right.
Cardinals, and Brewers. Suppose it's a one-game difference. Oh, my God, I love this kid, but that's an enormous mistake. Enormous.
Yeah, your Cubs have lost 5 out of 6 lately. Let's take a break. Coming up, Ace Bailey has made headlines for avoiding team visits. But what's he like as a player? We will ask Jay Billis.
It's a mystery. We'll also ask him, Jay that is, why recent drafts have gotten so much wrong in retrospect. Yeah, I'm dying over that game last night. Dying.
Yeah, man. The NBA draft starts just hours from now. We are pleased to welcome back our great friend, ESPN college basketball and NBA draft analyst, the dashing Mr. Jay Billis. Dressed like an adult in a tie makes me happy. Let's start with this. What do you see as Cooper Flagg's floor, and what do you see as Cooper Flagg's ceiling?
The floor is really high. I think his ceiling is a all-NBA, perennial all-star, kind of a face of the league, if you will, that kind of player, because he's got that kind of ability. And his defense is every bit as potent, if not more so, than his offense, with his size, his length, and athleticism. And it's really his maturity level, and then his level of competitiveness at age 18 is honestly kind of hard to fathom. A lot of these guys are competitive. I get that. But he's on the top tier of competitors that I've watched over the last 30 years. And I'm not saying he's the best one, but he's right there with the best of them. And especially at that age. Like, Duke's never had a freshman as good or as accomplished as Cooper Flagg. Not one. They've had guys that maybe you could argue Grant Hill or Kyrie Irving were more talented in certain areas, but nobody was as complete and as accomplished as a freshman as Cooper Flagg was.
Well, we seem to know a lot more about Cooper Flagg than we do Ace Bailey, Jay, who has decided, or his people have decided, to take him the route of mystery. But you know about him. What are you seeing in him as a player as we finally go into this draft tonight?
Ace Bailey is almost as young as Cooper Flagg. He's just 18 years old. And as far as shot making difficult shots, he's the best in this draft. Really good off the dribble and getting into his shot. He can make tough shot after tough shot. And you go back, watch tape of his games against like Indiana or Northwestern, where he had 39 points and 38 points respectively. Even seasoned NBA players were watching that going, man, like there's nobody else in college that makes shots like that. Outside of Dylan Harper of Rutgers and Cooper Flagg of Duke, Ace Bailey's the most talented player in this draft. Does he go number 3? Like, I think he's the 3rd most talented prospect in this draft. Does he go number 3 to Philly? I don't know. I would not be surprised if Philly took VJ Edgecombe of Baylor. But if you're looking for a super talented offensive player that's got length, athleticism, and can make every shot in the book, it's Ace Bailey. It's just a little puzzling why he would turn down all of these workouts and really basically say to the league, I'm okay going 6, 7, or 8, because that's given up millions upon millions of dollars in rookie contract salary. I don't have a problem with him doing that. That's fine. But when he schedules a workout, he's got to show up. That's sort of a level of professionalism that even at 18 he's got to have, and he needed to show that.
Jay, for decades, we could go 30, 35 college players deep into the second round and know everything about them. Not so much now, particularly with internationals included. But tell us, because you've been studying this, of someone who the rest of us are going to say is unknown, who you like.
Well, there are a few of them. I'd start with Asa Newell of Georgia. He's long and athletic, a great offensive rebounder, can guard multiple positions, really good in transition, excellent finisher at the basket, plays above the rim. But there are 3 3-and-D guys that I think are going to be really interesting to watch in this year's draft. One is Carter Bryant of Arizona City and Indiana and all that. Guys that can help you win that aren't necessarily leading scorer types.
This makes me so happy because Wilbon said, tell us about people we are not familiar with. And I don't know any of those people. So that was very good. We will get you out of here on this. We look back on some drafts over a period of time and we go, whoa, if we redrafted today, we would do it completely different. After all of the evaluations that people put into these drafts, why isn't this more of a science than it is a speculation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we could look back at every draft and we would do it differently because most of the prospects are 18, 19 years old. They're not finished products. There's not a ton of data on them. So you gather as much information, as much intelligence to make it sound more hoity-toity as you can. And then you try to make a sound decision. But there's no way to measure this. And I think when you look at the NFL draft, I would venture to guess they make as many mistakes as are made in basketball. And they have 5 years oftentimes to look at these guys. It's just not an exact science. I think when I started doing this 23 years ago, it was my 23rd draft for ESPN. I probably was mistakenly thinking that I knew after doing all this work. Now I just believe. And I think that's probably true of every NBA front office. Like, you have beliefs, but you don't know. Because, like, hands up all those who thought when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was drafted 11th that he was a future MVP. I don't know that anybody saw that. It's certainly a happy happening. But the one thing we know, the one thing that's certain is we're going to be wrong about certain players. And you just have to accept it and do the best you can.
Our great pleasure, Jay. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
NBA draft coverage starts at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Let's take one last break, but still to come, the Fever say see ya to a player for whom they had high hopes.
Great player, too. And the once mighty Mets, they're in a full swoon. They're struggling. Yeah, the draft, Tony, nobody had Giannis. Nobody had Giannis Antetokounmpo being a champion and an MVP either.
Happy time, people. Happy 27th birthday, Desmond Bane. Until last week, Bane was a starting guard opposite John Morant on the Memphis Grizzlies. Bane was drafted with the 30th overall pick in 2020 out of TCU by the Celtics, but the Celtics traded Bane to Memphis on draft night. This past season, Bane averaged 19.2 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. None of that matters now because Memphis traded Bane to Orlando for a couple of players and some draft picks. Suddenly there is optimism that Orlando can make a big move in the East because Bane gives the Magic what they lack, three-point shooting. Bane's a career 41% shooter from three. Last year, Orlando was the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA.
Yeah, with Indiana and Boston not healthy, I do expect Orlando to slide up. The big move may take a little longer, but I love Bane going there. Love the move for Orlando.
Happy anniversary, San Antonio Spurs. On this day 26 years ago, Tim Duncan scored 31 points and the Spurs defeated the Knicks to win the first of what would become 5 NBA championships. The core of that team was Duncan, who was named Finals MVP, David Robinson, Sean Elliott, and Avery Johnson. The Spurs became the first of the 4 ABA teams who joined the NBA in the merger to win an NBA title. Denver became the second a few years ago. Neither the Nets nor the Pacers, who were multiple ABA champions, have won in the NBA, though both have appeared in the NBA Finals twice.
The thing the Spurs didn't do was go back-to-back, but they should have done that in 13 and 14. Ray Allen prevented that from happening, but the Spurs should have won in 13 as well, Tony. It was on their racket, as we say.
DeWanna Bonner, the Indiana Fever, released Bonner today after failing to find a trade partner. 37-year-old is a 2-time title winner and was lauded as a big offseason pickup after following coach Stephanie White over from the Sun. Bonner began the season as a starter, was soon moved to the bench, and then sat out the last 5 games for personal reasons. She said in a statement that, quote, the fit did not work out. By the way, the Fever beat the Storm last night, but Caitlin Clark has been struggling. 1 for 23 from 3 with 22 turnovers in her last 3 games.
Bonner, by the way, has a Hall of Fame resume. She does.
Let's get to the big finish as quickly as we can.
Let's do it.
The Oilers traded Evander Kane to the Canucks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, save some money. He seems to be slowing down a step back. It seems, yeah, it makes sense. The Mets have lost 10 of 11. You got to be concerned.
Yeah, they're sinking. Fred VanVleet and the Rockets agreed a 2-year extension worth $50 million. Big deal?
Wow, the Rockets declined at $44 million he was owed. People thought you were going to trade him. Not getting traded now. Justin Verlander fell to 0-5 last night. Your boy Max Scherzer returns tonight to face the Guardians. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm rooting for the Warrior God. Of course I am. Last one, Colin Morikawa looking for a new caddy for the second time this season. Your reaction?
If I could take a cart, I want to do it. You know I love Morikawa. I'd love to be his caddy, but
You can't caddy in a cart. They're not going to let you caddy in a cart. No.
I'd like to.
We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads, and now more amazing sports commentary. Just wait. You'll see.